I can introduce the date also. This is the CI/CD UX team meeting on November 16th of 2022. It's almost 2023, which is crazy. Hi, Anna, I'll leave it to you.
All right. Thank you, Gina. I cannot see the agenda. My iPad is acting up. But anyways, I think my first item, it's about severity labels, if I'm not mistaken. So just a heads up for product designers. Please don't forget to add severity labels to your UX issues, especially the SUS impacting ones. The bot will annoy you if you don't. So it's a good way of reminding us to label those issues accordingly so that we can help with prioritization. But also I've seen some issues, you might see Valerie also doing some housekeeping on those issues and leaving comments, but there are some issues that are not labeled UX, but they do have UX requirements. So I review one for verify today. There was a backend issue, but it changed settings and it changed UI copy, but it didn't have UX or severity added. So just a reminder for everyone to please make sure that the issues that you and your team are working on have the correct labels applied. So that's one. And then my other updates about hiring. We'll have a new product designer joining the pipeline insights team. It's Laura will be joining us in the coming months. We don't have a start date yet, but she will take over from pipeline insight so that Gina can transition full-time to runner. So that's going to happen. And once I know more about that, the start date and yeah, just the onboarding, I'll let everybody know. So that's that for me. Gina, you're up next.
Yes, there's an issue that I linked here that Amelia had brought up about discussing how to better collaborate with designers, but I think it also applies with research and even technical writing, cross stage or cross group. I just mentioned it to this group. I think a few of us have already jumped into it, but I think this group does a really great job of collaborating. So I was encouraging you to share your thoughts if you have time. And I think we were going to try to start from the bottom of the agenda today, Erica, if you wanted to start.
Well, that's a great tie-in because working backward from my list, one of the things was that we have, I wanted to like celebrate the, my updates today are framed around welcome back, Hannah. So I wanted, yay, welcome. I wanted you to know that Gina and Will, I actually got sick and like tested such that I couldn't go to the conference. And so Gina like stepped into this leadership position. Will really delivered. And we have like 4 reports, I know, amazing, at KubeCon, 4 reports that we hammered out because of the data they collected, and then 1 more on the way, which ties into the issue that Gina just showed about cross-stage collaboration. So we set up like a game, we gamified the interviews instead of running them just like in a conversational way. And we were able to get great data, and I think we got actionable data. So we're still working on that report, and it's setting up a secret scan, which we kind of all want to be working on anyway. So that was really good. Yay! And then I guess my last item too is just asking if y'all would like to open up the H2 Verify and Package Common Screener for solution validation studies. So I just wanted to check if it's worth like making that change with Caitlin. And I linked a PDF of what the questions are, and it's long. But we have like 500 participants in there, and some of them have been used. But I think I'll give you time. You can just mention me in the notes to give you time to look at it and just let me know like how many studies we might recruit for. And then my other findings are kind of just an overview of the Q4 prioritization. So the big one is that we have a pre-work issue set up for Q3 to do some pre-work related to a benchmark, dare I say it, for a package. I'm nervous, but anyway, so yeah, so we'll hopefully do a benchmark for a package in Q1, fiscal year 23, starting in 15.9, waiting for design and PM resources to kind of come online. But before then, I'm just doing work to kind of crosswalk the stages that have done this before, to kind of make sure what we do is on par. And then we also kind of related to package resources, we put on hold this life cycle of an image study until the new PM joins. So that would be the study that we did kind of with secrets and CI templates, where it's how does it start? What happens next? What happens next? We would use that kind of framework. And so that's on hold for the new PM. We think it's exciting for the new PM to work on, but I think the benchmarks would get priority and then it would go to that study. One more thing to mention about that is Gina has a really cool issue, a research issue around looking at the life cycle of logs. And so part of me wants to try to fold that into this study that's now on hold. But I think we're getting feedback that we need to scope that Gina study down a little bit. So, but just note that I have a plan because I think it's really smart, in foundational research terms.
Okay.
Sorry, I didn't wait for Hannah to say that. Thanks for the heads up on the benchmark.
Yeah, sorry, the Google Docs keeps crashing on me, and so I cannot finish writing down my question. So yeah, about package, I have a question for you, Erica. I cannot open the issue now.
Okay.
On my iPad, but the pre-work issue is for the benchmarking, right? For package.
Yes.
I understand correctly?
Yes. And it's all things
Okay.
that
Okay.
I will do. I'm comparing the screener questions, because I think that, and I worked on benchmarks in a lot of previous roles. And one thing we want to see is how much we can compare across stages, which kind of means looking at how comparable the samples are, and did we all use the same screener, and what's the alignment. In part, I'm doing that so that I'm not making us be too rigorous with finding a counterbalance sample. I mean, but whatever we've done is an amazing iteration. But I just want us to track it explicitly so we kind of know. So it's mainly me doing the pre-work of what were the screeners, what's our screener look like. I actually have our screener drafted. And so whenever Tim has time, he can kind of come in. I think the idea would be we would treat it like a common screener and then be in a position to run the next benchmark. We would have 500 participants that we could select from if we kind of start rolling it out as soon as we're ready. And so we're just waiting on Tim to have time. Yeah, so it's what were the screeners? How are the samples comparing? And that will help us know, I think what I'm seeing so far is we're mainly small, medium business samples, which is fine to know, right? But it means we don't have to then stretch to do an enterprise recruit. Kind of, we want to be on par. And then I'll be looking at all of the mechanisms that different researchers use to get feedback. Will has this lovely mural approach that he used for jobs to be done, deciding on the tasks. And then working with Tim to figure out what the team has capacity for. I feel we'll go more bare bones, which is also okay. But so in a couple weeks when we get back from the Thanksgiving holiday, I'm going to meet with Tim to give the updates and then see what his thoughts are related to kind of the next steps. And my plan was just to use those little half-hour meetings that I have set up with him so that I don't take too much time. And then the last thing that I'll look at across those stage areas is just like the level at which the tasks were framed, because that can impact performance too. So I think we'll also help like elevate the research program with this work.
Okay. I'm taking some notes here. Thank you, Erica, for the overview. That clarifies my next couple of questions. And then I just want to say, please keep me in the loop, because if we know a bit ahead of what the UX, I'll say, like hands-on design work for package is going to look like, I'll need to know to prepare the UX coverage, because we won't have UX allocation for package until next year, Q3, Q4. Right.
Okay.
Yeah, we've made a decision to, because Tim and Victor, and also Michelle, they talk about the deliverable plans for package now, and that's for everybody to kind of be aware that, well, they're hiring developers, right? So they don't have, for example, front-end allocation to build UI right now. So we are not going to be hiring a designer for package right now. We move the headcount to a different team, and then we won't have a designer for package until next year, right? Once development picks up. But if there is the research is going on, and we have, well, the hiring for development also picks up, and we know that we have a need for package UX deliverables, then yeah, I'll need to know ahead of time so that we either work on a coverage or borrow plan or a hiring plan for the design backfill, for Katie's backfill. But just so you were aware that, yeah, we're not planning on deliverables for package because we don't have anyone allocated there. Yeah.
And maybe we work backwards from that too. I don't know. I like really wanted to contribute to the OKRs on it, but we just can't, or we're trying. But I think it would be okay to get those findings and then have the designer, as they on board, like pick up with them. As long as we like set the expectations. So everyone knows that that's our plan. It seems okay, but we'll let Tim guide us. But thank you for that update. Okay. That's all.
Okay. Awesome. Keep me in the loop.
Okay, Will?
Sure. Just got a couple updates. I'm using the same prioritization issue in Q4 as I used in Q3. I'm kind of trialing just a longer term prioritization issue that goes 2 quarters as opposed to 1, just to see how that process goes. I did add a comment in the issue with just some updates on like what projects we accomplished in Q3. So if you want to check that out, you're welcome to do so. And we're still collecting projects for Q4, but I've listed within that comment what projects we're expecting to take on this quarter. Aside from that, also met up with Emily on Sunday, which was awesome. We got to have dinner. It was nice to just meet another person. I've met like half the people on this call, which I never thought when Contribute got canceled for the year. But yeah, it's just been great to slowly meet more and more team members as I've been a part of the company. And my final update is that I've been reviewing scenarios kind of off and on for Emily's CMS study on environment management, and she's been really putting a lot of effort into that over the past couple of weeks. Any questions before I turn it over to Emily? Okay, Emily, you could take it away.
Cool. I'll go a little out of order because I'll get to my critique one at the end. But I was mostly curious now that I'm kind of getting to the stage of conducting the CMS interviews with internal users, just kind of some of the things you did to recruit people. I know we're using some people from the delivery team who've already offered to volunteer, but just any other options to get people into the study I'm looking for. So looks like Will and Gina both had comments around that.
Sure. So I haven't done this a ton. I did this probably the most like after I started at GitLab, just because I wasn't sure how to get internal people to begin with. And I've like posted on Slack channels, just I try to keep like a very concise message of, who I'm looking for, what dates, just any like kind of a summary of details about the study. And just try to post them on different channels. Sometimes I've like leaned on the PM to try to help direct me to like the right channels to go to. But since you're working a lot with the delivery team, they might, help you know where to post, or you could just talk to the participants that you have signed up and say like, hey, now that you've gone through this study, is there someone else on your team that might be good for this?
Your mind was just plus one to what Will said. I have posted in what's happening at GitLab before, that has gotten traction. And then I also found that linking to the research issue helps kind of allowing them to get context around what the research is about.
Awesome. Sounds good. There's Hayana left a comment as well as a +1.
Yeah, I'm trying. My my Google Docs are just not loading. I think I wrote down about looking, of course, in the handbook, right? We have a section with the internal customers for each stage group, and then on which page is that? On the handbook product / categories, and then for release stage, we know it's delivery, distribution, team, security. So just echoing what Will and Gina said. Most of those groups, they have their own Slack channel, so you can drop that same message in there, and then we either reach out directly to people. I think for the release, the delivery team, they're super active, so it's easy to find those connections through them, and also ask like, who is someone that is working or has used XYZ feature functionality, and then you can get in contact with them. But I think Gina and Will, they already gave the best tips, so just echoing what they say.
Awesome. Cool. The second update I wanted to give is we adjusted the deployments navigation. So now when you click on the high level deployments, you land on the environments page, not feature flags, because there's a lot of data showing that people would land on feature flags and navigate away as well. There was comments about this in our like benchmarking study. So that is now in production, which is really great. And then Will, I noticed you had a comment on that as well.
Yeah, as you talked about, we did see this a lot in the benchmarking study, and I would just constantly see participants like click on the link and know that they weren't going to go to the right place, and then they would just like get frustrated and then have to, use that extra click to go to the right page. So I know that's going to be a big time change.
Awesome. And do I have time to do a little kind of design review? I think we still have like 20 minutes. So I'll try not to take up all the time, but just wanted to make sure I wasn't taking up too much time. So the background of this has been a long-standing issue that's opened, that basically we want to design a page that for MVCs starts out to house production environments across a group. We've seen a lot of research showing that users are having a lot of problems tracking environments at the group level. And they're having to go to each project level page, kind of track statuses on there. So kind of crafting up a page here that people would be able to see like a high level summary and then be able to click in and take action if needed. So Hayana, thank you for telling me to kind of just step back and start from scratch, because that really got me started quite well. But I'll go ahead and share my screen if I can figure out what screen I have to share. This one. Cool. So how I started this is I really took a step back and went through the research, and kind of this page is interesting because it's not a typical flow. Users wouldn't be going here to complete like a typical flow, but I did want to get onto paper kind of like some of the tasks that the research showed that they were looking for. I don't know if I should go into this if this is going to be public, but you can kind of take a look at kind of some of this and then just taking a step back and really figuring out. So this is like a high level view. What do users really want to understand? And starting from like the information architecture point of view here, not even designing something, just trying to figure out from a high level what we should be showing on this page. So with some like team feedback, I've done some like sync calls with the engineers on this. I kind of landed on something like this where we would show kind of production environments, a top level summary of like your environment health across the group. So like how many environments are healthy? Are you having problems with any of them? Still a little TBD on what to show in this area, but really having that high level summary and then being able to dig down if you need. And then when you go into the environment, showing an environment level summary of that production environment with like environment health project, the deployment, the most recent deployment health, and then some actions you can take, as well as showing that most recent deployment. So you have like context of what is going into that environment currently. I've cut it down quite a bit from some of the original proposals because this page, we really want to show them what is going on and not bog them down by a bunch of different information that they could kind of dig into and find. So I've kind of moved it into this. Again, as you can see, this is like a really big TBD. I want to create a nice summary at the top, but kind of showing this into like group name environment at the production tier, kind of like, is the most recent deployment successful? Is there anything action you have to take? And then kind of showing details about the most recent deployment underneath it, with options to like view in project and kind of debug problems going that way. But by condensing this information down, reducing the amount of like pagination you need, so being able to show things all on one page and being able to show just the information you need to kind of take the action that you need to take. So open to suggestions on this, but that's kind of like how I've started this. It's still fairly rough. So there's like, I do want to run this by some users as well, but thought I would get a first feedback look, even though this is kind of like a rough, low fidelity right now.
I had one comment just saying that I thought it looked great. I didn't even see this, the one that you're showing right now. I only saw the IA stuff. So I think it looks like with all the information that you have to deal with, which there is a lot. Like you did a really good job of summarizing that and making it clear. I also, the thing that came to mind for the summary view up top, I think that the single stat component is always good for that type of stuff. So if you could consider using something like that for up there. I've seen other pages do that as well. Runner does that, and then there's like a DevOps report type of thing that kind of does it.
Oh, awesome. And that's called the like single stat component?
Yeah, I'll link it to you from Pajamas.
Awesome.
It's pretty flexible too, which is great. Then my only other comment was for like, this would be adding a new navigation item for groups, and we had to do a similar thing for runners. So I would consider talking to the foundations team just to make sure, like, I think you have to get approval from them now. I can link the handbook page, but I also know because they have all their navigation efforts going on, it may change. So something to be aware of.
Yeah, I know when we were trying to do billing on the growth team, we were running into a similar thing. There was like a process in adding something to the nav. So I will definitely kind of communicate this idea with them and see how to go from there.
Okay, yeah.
Well, Erica, I think you had the next comment.
Yes. Thanks for sharing this. I love that you're sharing this in this meeting. So one thing that we've learned about the workflow with CI/CD variables, and a subset of those are secrets, is that one of the reasons people want to use the unprotected values is because they tend to use the wrong ones per environment because it's confusing. So yeah, like a subset of that finding is that they use different secrets values for the different environments. So I think you could add clarity here if there's like a light touch way to even like allow people to dig into the different variables that are being used in different environments
Mhm.
and what they do. I think that would help them. And it feels like if we're going to do an overview like that, that would be something to highlight or think about.
I can definitely think into that. I'm still in the process of trying to figure out what is the best information to show here, what should be still cut out, because some of this deployment information is just kind of copied over from the environment index page. So definitely want to do a bit more exploration on like, is this the right amount of information? And if there's additional information, like you said, the kind of secrets, how do you show that here? So thanks for bringing that to my attention. Cool. Thank you all for the feedback, by the way. I see Will is next.
Yeah, I think for the summary view, some of the things that could be helpful is just being able to identify not just like how many environments are in a successful status, but also if there's ones that are like pending, or if there are ones that are like failing or having some sort of like difficulties, just so that people can like easily like click into those and be taken to those somehow. And then also I like how in your design you're not like using that carrot / accordion style menu that we currently have, just because it's nice to be able to just see some of the specific data that users were having to like really stumble around to try to find.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you. That was kind of, I know a lot of our research has shown those collapsible sections when you're trying to find a high level view of everything was just not working out right. So I was trying my best not to even collapse any information, and just if there's information that needs to be hidden, maybe that's not the right place to put it on this page. So appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Cool. And Hyana, I think you have the last comments.
Yeah, so just plus one on what Will has said about showing the information without using that awful pattern of expanding, collapsing. It just hides all the info that is essential in this page, pretty much in both, in this case, the group, but also the project level environments view. And also plus one on the summary block. I think this will give users that adequate understanding of how their environments are doing across the board. And that's important, of course, not only for the developers, but the managers, the director, or buyer persona, anyways, anyone really that is interested in how the application is doing at the higher level. So I think that's going to be a great addition. And I have a couple of follow-up questions, Emily. I'm not sure if you have the time, but I think those are just the things I was thinking of while looking at the prototypes. What type of environments will be displayed on this overview? Just like the protected environments, production only? And also I was wondering, how would users set up this overview? Has the team considered if this would be something that will be just pre-populated, coming from all the projects that have environments that meet a specific criteria? Or will users be able to, let's say, manage and customize that view based on what's important for them to see, for each project?
Yeah, so this is a good question. For MVC, we've really landed on, we want to show just production tier environments, and then figuring out later, we'll need to scale this up to show the different tiers, but kind of pre-populate this based on like tier of environments. This is actually where the empty state comes in. I don't think I'm the one that designed this empty state. I kind of grabbed it from one of the others, but if you aren't using environment tiers, using this empty state to kind of encourage users to kind of set that up so that they can pre-populate this page, but also use this feature, which we don't have any area now where we're really encouraging them to do so. So having the empty state as both a bonus of setting up this, but also encouraging people to use environment tiers. So hopefully that answers your question. For MVC, we are just going to stick with production tier environments, and to set it up would be enabling tiers in your environments to show them pre-populated on this page.
Yeah, thanks. That answers my question. And I think following up to that, and thinking out loud too, is that, when you have the chance, look at how the MVC plus would look like. Because, for example, if I'm not mistaken, you can have multiple environments under the same tier, right? So if you set it up in the CI file, you can have, I don't know, different production environments, labeled production, but with a different name, right? So how would that look like in the UI? How would users customize? So I think it would be a good next step for you there to see how this page would grow. Because one of the challenges that we had with the current environments page is that while designing and also coding it, we were not thinking of how that page would scale. So I think you have the ability here to predict some of the edge cases, but also to avoid, unhappy paths in the UI and the overall UX.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's something. And where I'm early enough into the designs here now that I have to kind of build out what does like unhealthy environments look like? What happens when you have like a lot on this page? So I think we still have quite a bit of time to kind of build out all these edge cases. And then once we start showing more than just the production tier, how do you set that up? What does that view look like and everything like that? So I think there's lots of work to be done on this page, but it'll be good work to finally get out to users.
Yeah. Yeah, awesome. And then my next point is about that it seems like if we move forward with this approach, right, of group level environments, we could potentially deprecate the environments dashboard view. What are the team discussions about it? If there's any discussion going on around deprecating or replacing the page in favor of this group view?
Yeah, so there hasn't been any like official conversations going on, but I have chatted with like Andrew on the team of the reasons of moving away from it, and just the performance issues on that page were so hard to sort out that that's kind of where this idea has come from, and kind of like why we might be moving forward with this, since some of the performance issues were really hard to kind of solve for. But I think we need like some written out kind of conversation with the PMs and everyone on that team to figure out, is this like a replacement? Can they work together? What are the main pros of this, pros of the environment dashboard, and really sort that plan out as well.
Awesome. Yeah, I think that will be, a good, how can I put that? Justification, right, for deprecating or moving away from that environment dashboard view. There's no traffic there, as far as I know. And to your point, there's so many restrictions in terms of the also for that performance of that page that, I would say, if you can, and also when you have the decisions and conversations with the team, put in the proposal too, right? That how this page will or could potentially solve the jobs to be done or solve the problems that the environment's dashboard view does not solve, right? Yeah.
No, thank you.
And then, no, sorry, go ahead.
No, I just said thank you. That's like something I definitely have to think on. So we'll get that written up too.
Awesome. And then my last feedback is just about the UI. And then let me zoom in here. Yeah. When I did the validation for the environments page, right? I learned that that information about the commit message, it's irrelevant to users, or it's usually relevant when that commit is merging or branch or anything into master, because it often shows that same, default message, merge branch, and then branch name. And that's not really readable, and that's not very informative to users. So my feedback here would be like, check in the insights. I don't remember correctly now what's the most relevant information that we should be displaying here to users, and see how, and if it could be if you could replace the merge branch message, because that's what we have today in the environments page. It's just the same message everywhere with a link, and it doesn't really tell much. I think you can use that space in a different way rather than just showing this message.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's stuff we can, especially that if we can save real estate on anything in this page and take out things that they don't need at this viewpoint, something I'm working towards right now. So that's great to know that's something we can potentially take out of this. Awesome. Well, thanks everyone for your feedback. I want to give Gina enough time for her points as well, but I appreciate kind of taking the time to let me walk through that. So
Thanks, Emily. I have one other question for you. I noticed that the way that you were like, for each row, there was kind of like many columns of metadata in there, like the job, like all that stuff. Have you gotten any feedback around how that impacts like scannability, I guess, across different deployments?
yeah, because it is a lot of information. So as like a side note, I've kind of added these in here to this. I'm still considering it like a low fidelity. I've just added in what we have on the environment index page, and I'm planning in like the next version of this to kind of go through, see what information we can remove from there, see what information is like the most important, based on conversations with the engineers to kind of for MVC start with what we have and kind of take away from that if possible, just so we can reuse some components. So yeah, I agree. Those sections I think need a bit of cleaning up and figuring out what exact information should be placed there. Like the merge branch message, taking that away. But yeah, I agree. I think there's some simplification we can still do in that area.
Yeah, I'd be like, if you end up testing this, I would be interested in seeing if people say, like, if they want to scan, I guess by column, like does formatting the information in that way impact that? Because I mean, we're doing that in Runner, and there have been like literally two customers who have been like, I don't want to see it in this list view. I'd rather see it in a table, but the majority have been saying it's fine to see it in the way that it is. But the view that we're using is very similar. So I think the insights would carry over to both.
Cool, good to know. And yeah, I'm planning to run this through some solution validation as well when we have a more finalized design, because it is such a big lift to do. So hopefully we'll get some of the usability comments from that as well.
And then I have one more point there. I'm like jumping in before we switch, but it would be that when you do the solution validation, I think try to include like more personas than you might not, like try to push yourself to include more personas. So we make this work for more people, because I think it can have a bigger impact.
Yeah, because I think right now the dashboard, sorry, I'll come is not working for some of our personas. So opening this up to a bunch of other ones is probably like the best bet. Awesome. Well, thanks again for all of that. I will pass it off to Gina now.
Hey, thanks. I have two updates. One of them is for pipeline insights. We're dealing with this problem of flaky tests. Forget if I gave a definition of these or not, but the general one is that when you run tests, they can sometimes fail, but the failure isn't real. Like it wasn't actually detected. It was because like the test is actually written incorrectly, or maybe a test that test relies on failed, something like that. And if it fails more often than it succeeds without actually detecting a failure, it's considered flaky. So we're trying to understand from users, like their pain points right now, their workarounds with how they're dealing with flaky tests, and then definitely how they define them. The key insight for us here is how they define them, because we want to be able to, when we define them for this MVC, we want to make sure it matches their expectations. So I included some of the insights that we've heard so far. We've only met with 3 users so far, but we have a few other participants coming up as well. And then on the runner side, this is like one of our our bigger, well, it's a small feature, but it's an important feature that we've added for runners. It kind of has to do with the whole runner fleet monitoring / queue stuff I've been talking about for a while. So it's difficult for users to be able to see if a runner is running a job at the moment. And the reason why that's important is because if they were to update the runner, for example, it would stop that runner from running any jobs. So they don't want to impact any current running jobs, or else the code just, it doesn't go out. So they want to know if that runner is actually running one. So we've added a badge to be able to see if it's running or if it's idle is the other word that we're using. The tough part about this is that now we have 2 status badges. We have one about if the runner is online and if the runner is like running a job. So our next iteration would be combining those into a single status, something like active, where it's running a job and it's online. And then that will allow for less load on the user. Any questions or anything?
I just want to say I love the idea of combining status badges into one thing that works, because I've seen it quite a few times, and I think it's in like the environments area as well, where there's like multiple status badges and you're not quite sure how they relate to each other. So I think that's a great idea.
Thanks. It will definitely be a tough thing to do, like, because even with runner, because everything's through the CLI too, people can now get a list of all like online runners, but all those statuses would have to change. So it's going to be like a long process. Well, I think that's it. I don't think anybody has anything else, so thanks for meeting today. Yeah. See everybody soon, next week maybe.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you. Bye.